Good evening, everyone. Did you know that lower iron levels in the body equals lower HB levels equals lower immunity? That's exactly what 38,000 doctors from across India have taken a stand against as they unite and swear to make India anemia free by spreading the word on the significance of HB tests among women and young adolescents. These gynecologists are coming together for a brighter and more positive future for the women of India by head on challenging anemia. Their vision is to take a collaborative, multi pronged approach to ensure the desired medical outcomes. They strongly believe that this is a good time to create more awareness about anemia as people are now more serious about preserving their health. This campaign is in association with Foxy Doctors and MCure. Today, I'm chatting with three prestigious doctors, Dr. Alpesh Gandhi, Dr. Nozar Sheriar, and Dr. Suchitra Pandit. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to raise awareness on more than Bara. I'd like to introduce each one of the three esteemed panelists to our audience. Dr. Alpesh Gandhi is the president of the Federation of Obstetric and Gynecological Societies of India, that is FOGSI, and in his leadership, FOGSI has launched a campaign for Anemia Free India jointly with MCure to spread awareness about anemia and hemoglobin in blood that should always be more than para. Welcome, Dr. Alpesh Gandhi.
Good evening.
Dr. Nozar Sheriar is a gynecologist and obstetrician at Aviva Clinic for Women in Mumbai and has over 30 years of experience in these specialized fields. Welcome, Dr. Nozar.
Thank you.
Dr. Suchitra Pandit is a consultant gynecologist and obstetrician at Surya Hospitals, Mumbai, and has an experience of over 37 years in these fields. Dr. Suchitra, I extend my warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Once again, I'd like to warmly say a big thank you to all of you and thank you for bringing your immense experience to this discussion. Let's get started. My first question is to Dr. Alpesh Gandhi. Dr. Gandhi, we've seen a lot of people talk about it, but can you tell us exactly what more than 38,000 for more than Bara symbolizes?
Thank you, Dr. Namar. Thank you, Namrata, and very good evening. Thank you for asking the very important question related to this campaign. First of all, I would like to give brief introduction about FOGSI. FOGSI is one of the largest federation of any medical specialty in the world with more than 38,000 practicing gynecologists across India. We are taking care of 50% population of India from adolescent age to teenage age, reproductive age to menopausal and geriatric age. And our mission is to reduce maternal and neonatal mortality and morbidity and to work to promote and advocate sexual and reproductive health for girls and women in India. We have observed that anemia is endemic in India with more than 50% prevalence. It is responsible for many women's health related issues directly or indirectly. Unfortunately, there is a high incidence of anemia in India. Our government are working on it since last 70 years, but still we have not reached to the desirable level. But at the same time, fortunately, we believe that it is completely a preventable condition. So for the first time in the history of independent India, more than 38,000 doctors, gynecologists have come together and launched the campaign to spread awareness for anemia-free India at community level and for the importance of hemoglobin level more than 12% to prevent anemia. And yes, you have rightly told that. We believe that this is the right time because at present we can see a lot of health awareness across India. Today, if we ask anybody in the street about COVID-19 pandemic, then they all know about how to prevent it and what to do. They all know about the importance of mask, importance of sanitization and social distancing. So similarly, we believe that if we can generate this much awareness about anemia, which is already in India, which is already endemic, we are facing a lot problems because of anemia, then this is the proper time where we can also tackle anemia. So this is the reason why we all 38,000 gynecologists across India come together and launch the campaign to spread awareness for Anemia Free India. Means we are more than 38,000 for more than 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alpesh. That was absolutely wonderful. And it's great to know that 38,000, more than 38,000 doctors have come together for this call. Dr. Suchitra, my next question is to you. Who do you think stands the risk of not being more than 12?
Thank you very much for that question, Namrata. Today, when you're looking at statistics, there are the preschool children probably who have got the highest rate of prevalence of anemia, almost between 40 to 50%. And the next very important group, which we are very concerned with, is our pregnant women, particularly pregnant women from India and the entire Southeast Asian region. Nearly 30 to 45% are anemic. And then the next group is the younger girls. We would say the adolescent girls or the young girls who are not yet pregnant. That again forms a very big group. And of course, as you're going up the ladder, the older group, the geriatric women and men, then they are at a very high prevalence of anemia. So, anemia in India is still, overall, if you see, it's ranging between 30 to 45%. It's a very, very high group.
Yeah, like you very lightly said, doctor, that's a really high number. And I think it's high time that we did something about it. And it's high time for a campaign like this to come through. So Dr. Noser, I'd like to ask you, how does optimum iron level in pregnant women contribute to their immunity?
Right. So most people equate iron with hemoglobin and hemoglobin with oxygen carrying capacity. And anemia is usually thought to be a disease in which you feel tired and weak and lassitude. And in pregnancy, of course, our greatest concern is, besides the fact that you have to supply the iron to the fetus, when the pregnancy ends, women bleed, and obviously their capacity of coping with hemorrhage is less if the hemoglobin is low. But what's interesting now is there's increasing research and evidence to tell you that your iron levels actually impact your immunity. Now, there are two kinds of immunities. You've got the cell-mediated immunity and you've got the antibodies. And it has been shown that women with lower levels of iron have poorer cell-mediated immunity. We've got certain cells. We've got natural killer cells in the body. We've got certain other substances. We've got the interleukins. And when they compare groups of women with iron, normal and low irons, they found that the ones which were anemic and had low irons, besides all the other stuff that anemia does, actually had poorer immunity. Poorer immunity in pregnancy makes you more prone to infections. And we must remember that while the first leading cause of death in this country is hemorrhage, which can be impacted by anemia, the third leading cause of death of women during pregnancy in this country is infections. And anything that can be done to improve their immunity will save these women and save so many lives.
Okay, it's very interesting to know that. So Dr. Alpesh, we've been hearing about the number 12, but can you tell us a little bit about what exactly anemia is and why is this number 12 so important for every woman?
Namrata, this is very, very important question because I think we all have to understand what is anemia.
Right.
Then only we can understand its importance. Anemia is the most common nutritional disorder, not only in India, but we can say it's a worldwide nutritional disorder. The incidence across the world is different in different countries. But in some of the countries, it is less in number, like in USA, it is only 6%. Whereas in India, different studies suggest different numbers. As per the, as Dr. Suchitra has mentioned, it may be around 40 to 50%. As per NFHS, which is the government government institute, as per the government data, it is I think 53% of the non-pregnant women and 56% of the adolescent girls are suffering from it. It means 64 million girls at any point in time are anemic. This is a huge number. The risk factors may be different. Sometimes it may be a nutritional status or blood loss during menstruation, or maybe socioeconomical status, or maybe hand hygiene or worm infestation. So many factors are there, but the most important one is lack of awareness. And I think anemia means it is believed that level of hemoglobin, and in routine blood test, anemia is reported as a low hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the main protein in our red cells. It carries oxygen and delivers it throughout the body. To ensure adequate tissue oxygenation, a sufficient hemoglobin level must be maintained. And the normal hemoglobin level for females is 12 to 16 gram. So if there is a low hemoglobin level, as Dr. Noser has just mentioned, the tissue oxygenation will not be proper, and organs may not function properly, and it can then cause so many complications, or so many other diseases can also, it can increase. Anemia causes many adverse consequences as the disease progresses. It is not only affect the growth of the girls, but it also affect the overall health and performance. Severe or untreated iron deficiency anemia during pregnancy can lead to increased incidence of maternal mortality and neonatal mortality also. It is said that 20 to 40% of the mortality is directly or indirectly related to iron deficiency anemia. So it ultimately adds fuel to all the possible complications during adolescence and during pregnancy. And that is why it is very, very important to maintain the level of hemoglobin minimum 12.
Right. So we've always been hearing about 12, and I think you've thrown light on it very beautifully, that the 12 to 16 is the range you said. So 12 being the number that we should be watching out for. Dr. Suchitra, like doctor has just spoken about the number 12, and what do you think is the importance of iron in blood through adolescence and through pregnancy?
As Dr. Alpesh rightly pointed out, more than 60 million girls, they're adolescents basically.
Yeah.
We are talking about malnutrition in the poorer socioeconomic group. But today, what has been found that adolescents, even in the better population, better socioeconomic status, also have a malnutrition because they're eating the wrong kinds of food, maybe calorie-dense food, or maybe food which is just, because they want to, the fast food as we call it, something which is processed and doesn't have the adequate nutrition in them. Probably they've got working mothers where, this thing is not looked after properly. So as a result of which, if this adolescent population, is growing older, they also need all the important nutrients, and one of them is iron, very importantly needed for their spikes. So how are they going to get those growth spurts? How are they going to get those nutritions? So when these girls, if they, get pregnant, I hope, we don't want teenage pregnancy anymore, but we still know that it happens in certain, economic strata. The girls are getting married very early. So in those girls, they become teenage mothers. So there the incidence of anemia goes further higher because they're already deficient to start off with. And then the pregnancy demands pregnancy hemodilution. And then there's a proper iron deficiency anemia then in pregnancy. And this is something, if as Dr. Alpesh rightly pointed out, if we create that awareness, not just with the young people, also with their mothers or their caretakers at home, give them the right balance of food and that supplement of iron if it is required, most of the girls would have a much more better hemoglobin status. Today, everybody is happy if they have 10, but we want 12. 12 is what we want. And that's where we as doctors and y'all from the society have to join hands together if we have to have that, anemia moved and our girls going up to the right status. And here I'd also like to mention that the concept of preconceptual counseling is excellent. It is there. There are clinics available. There are doctors who are trained to do this, but majority of the women do not access that, be it the privileged class or be it the underprivileged class. And that is something which I would like to mention. If they come in, at least there are some deficiencies which can be corrected.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Suchitra, for that. Dr. Nozer, Dr. Suchitra just spoke about the diet and iron supplements. But I'd like to ask you, is diet sufficient to meet iron requirements of first-time moms, or are supplements necessary?
No, diet is not sufficient. So diet is important, very important. And I know that in my personal practice, there's not a single patient who will not have a diet consultation, and it's paid very rich dividends. But the WHO tells us that your minimum requirement of iron in pregnancy is between 30 and 60 milligrams of what we call as elemental iron. Now, why is this important? Because different iron preparations have a different content of elemental iron. This is extremely difficult to meet with a normal person's diet. I'm not saying there are outliers everywhere and there'll be someone who has a brilliant diet. But I always tell my patients that you'll have plates and plates of, say, greens to get that kind of iron, which is not only practical. Vegetarians up to the mark. So even in the CDC, which makes recommendations, they recommend that you have to have at least a minimum of 30 milligrams of elemental iron supplemented over and above what a woman's diet is. Now, this may change. For example, if I have a patient who started off with iron deficiency anemia and who's got a very, very low iron level in her body, and we've got ways of measuring those, I probably want to up this to 120 milligrams depending on her requirement. I might have to find imaginative ways of giving her the iron. If she can't tolerate higher doses of iron, the new preparations are brilliant, tolerated better. I might think in terms of injectable iron. But the important thing to understand is do a great diet, but please also have that basic supplementation of iron that you need and any pregnant woman needs, whether it's the first pregnancy, second pregnancy, or whatever.
I'd like to understand more about all those creative ways of introducing iron into your patient's diet, doctor. We'll have a chat about that later. But Dr. Alpesh, we are now living in a pandemic world. We're living through a pandemic. So can you tell us what is the effect of COVID-19 on pregnant women who have iron deficiency?
And Namrata, Namrata, at present, we can say still we do not have enough data to comment on it. For that, we need some data comparing pregnant women with hemoglobin more than 12 and COVID-19 infection with a pregnant woman less than hemoglobin 12 with COVID-19 infection. And I think at present there are not much data available. But it is said that pregnancy is a low immunity state with many physiological changing occurring in the body, and pregnancy is a hypercoagulable state. Pregnant women need to take adequate and nutritious diet, and we are dealing with two patients at a time. One is mother and another is the tiny patient fetus. So when such pregnant women with iron deficiency anemia develop COVID-19, there is a possibility that maternal and fetal complications and the severity of complications may increase, particularly possibility of admission, possibility of requirement of oxygen, possibility of admission in critical care units, incidence of premature delivery, and many more such requirement may increase and complications may increase, particularly when hemoglobin is less than 12 in a pregnant woman and who develop COVID-19 infection.
Okay, it's great to know about that. I think we all need to be very watchful. And Dr. Suchitra, we spoke about the importance of iron through adolescence and through pregnancy. So can you tell us more about the importance for iron for the health of pregnant as well as lactating women?
All right. Thank you for the question. Well, if there is an iron deficiency anemia and it is not taken care of, or the woman does not take supplements, what all happens? The woman can get extremely tired. There's a general kind of, a listlessness. She may have, chelosis, which is, cracks at the end of the corners of the mouth. She may feel tired over a period of time. If this persists, she may just not be interested in whatever is happening. These are the general things. But susceptibility to infections in the first trimester also, if the anemia levels are very, very low, there have been reports which show that the incidence of premature labor is also high, and the effect on the fetus is also there, particularly effects, which have developmental delays in the brain. The myelination is, part of the brain where the nerves have to have their adequate amount of nutrition. So the iron deficiency is severe and is uncorrected, it can lead to those problems. And of course, the incidence of, as I said, susceptibility to the urine infections, smaller babies, premature labor, that is something which happens. And if the woman has got a lesser hemoglobin, even her tolerance to go through the labor can be a little difficult. She may get extremely tired. If the anemia is very severe, it can also lead to a cardiac failure during the process of labor. And it is said that if there's a low hemoglobin and if the woman has bleeding post-delivery, which is called as postpartum hemorrhage, we take an average about 500, but in women who is anemic, if she bleeds even 100 to 250, that probably may be postpartum hemorrhage for her. So it may be disaster for her all throughout the pregnancy. And as far as the fetus, as I've said, the neonates, if they are born with a smaller hemoglobin, and if that is not picked up and if it is not supplemented, it will lead to developmental delays, and they may have problems in cognitive and speech problems also. So therefore, that should be picked up in pregnancy itself. The woman should be treated, and at the same time, the fetuses also should be treated. Now, if the woman has got a good hemoglobin, she feeds the baby, there is adequate amount of iron in the breast milk, but over a period of time, the level of the iron reduces if you do not continue with the iron supplements. But an iron deficient mother, she's already low on her reserves. So the breast milk iron is also low. And that again goes further low over a period of time. And then that may not be a solution. So therefore, these babies have to be, they get very irritable, they are cranky. And, the neonatologist has to pick these things up and quickly do the iron supplementation. So therefore, we realize how anemia is important and why we should eradicate anemia and why our pregnant women are important, because they're also for them and also for the future progeny. We have to have that social responsibility and a clinical responsibility of giving adequate iron supplementation.
Oh, it's wonderful to know that, doctor. And I think I was going through my own pregnancy and delivery when you were talking about that, because when I gave birth to my kids, they were iron deficient and they were prescribed supplements right from the beginning. So it sort of helped me understand a little bit more now. So Dr. Noser, I hope you're all settled now. You found a good place and your phone is on charging. Okay, so my question to you is, how often should first-time moms get their iron counts checked?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so my question to you, doctor, is how often should first-time moms get their iron counts checked? Oh, I think he's dropped out, probably a problem with the network. Okay, so we go on to Dr. Alpesh, your next question, while we wait for Dr. Noser to join in. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so Dr. Noser, we're speaking about anemia-free India and more than BARA, but do you think we can ever become anemia-free India? What are your thoughts on that?
As I told you previously, in majority of the cases, it is a preventable condition. And we can see some of the developed countries have achieved a good incidence, which is under control. We conducted one interesting opinion poll from all our members on 13th September, and the results were really surprising for all of us. We asked our members that the incidence of anemia in USA is nearly 6%, and in India it is more than 50%. Do you think we can become nearly anemia-free India till 2025? And to our surprise, 94.6% of our members have replied yes. So I think this is the best answer to your question, that 94.6% of our 38,000 gynecologists believe that yes, we can achieve anemia-free India. As I told you, in the majority of the cases, it is a preventable condition, and we could, when eradicate polio from our country, then why not anemia? I know it is difficult, but it is possible. Our commitment, our priority, our mass education programs, our management plans, our proper execution can make our country free of anemia.
It's great to know that, doctor. And I'm sure with the right kind of guidance, with more than 38,000 members of FOGSI, I'm sure it will become a reality very soon. So, Dr. Noza, we lost you for a bit in between. My question to you at that time was, how often should first-time moms get their iron counts checked?
So first time moms and every time moms have to get their iron counts checked. Basically, the recommendation is, and what most of us practice is, we do a test for her at the time that she meets us first. That's the first contact. And then for most women, a second time happens when she's in the third trimester between 26 and 28 weeks. Of course, most of us don't just stop at 2, and particularly when we're dealing with a patient with anemia, we do the counts even more frequently to see whether she's responding to the therapy that we've given her. Now, the basic test we do is a hemoglobin, but hemoglobin itself is not enough. So with the hemoglobin, we normally do a CBC, that's a complete blood count, which tells us how many RBCs she has, red blood cells she has, which tells us what something called as a hematocrit is, which is used in conjunction with hemoglobin to judge what the severity of anemia is. In some cases, we'd want to do what are called as iron studies, which sees what's the level of iron, what is the capacity of a body to bind the iron. And one very important thing to remember in our country or in any country is there are certain special causes of anemia. And we have something known as beta thalassemia, which a number of women from some parts of our country carry. They carry this gene, they carry this trait. Now, these women can pass this trait on to their baby, to their fetus, but besides that, they battle with anemia, even if they have a reasonably good diet. And so this is a test that we must consider doing, particularly for certain patient populations. The patient population going from northern Gujarat through Rajasthan, Punjab, and Sindh. But besides that, if you find a patient where you, I think it should be done routinely, but even if you're not doing it routinely, if you find a patient who's not responding to your basic iron therapy, then that's a test that must be kept in mind. So look for other causes. Iron deficiency, the most important cause. Other deficiencies, folic acid deficiency, B12 deficiency, and in our country, certain infections, a worm infestation. You come from certain areas which are endemic for things like malaria. So anemia is your problem. Iron deficiency accounts for a majority of anemia, but then remember that you could also have other causes which may not be up there in front, but which must be kept in mind if you're really going to do justice to this woman and treat her.
Okay, it's great to know that. I think the next question is also sort of related, so I'll ask you that as well. Is that when does iron count matter the most? During pregnancy or postpartum period or both? And why do you think so?
So iron count matters at every part of pregnancy, right? For some reasons, it may matter during pregnancy. For other reasons, it may matter post-delivery. Now, during pregnancy, and this has been brought out by both my friends and colleagues very well, what it does to the pregnancy. Anemia is a cross-cutting problem. Anemia affects everything. Today, if you look at the causes of maternal morbidity, why major medical problems or mortality, which is something a country is measured by. And in today's day and age, if you're going to judge a country and the care it gives its most vulnerable population, that's women, and high time we started measuring up to that. Look at maternal mortality figures. Most causes of maternal mortality, whether it be hemorrhage, whether it be unsafe abortions, whether it be infections, all these are magnified by the underlying anemia. So during pregnancy, extremely important for the growth of the fetus. During pregnancy, extremely important for how she feels. She is carrying an additional responsibility. Some people may call it a burden. It's a wonderful burden, a responsibility. If her hemoglobin level is low by 2 points, can you imagine that she's working with a lower level of oxygen in her body to do all that hard work? I mean, people forget that when a woman carries 10 or 12 kilos at the end of pregnancy, try getting a man to put on a haversack weighing 12 kilos and tell him to keep it on for the next 3 months. And he will understand what kind of burden there is on the pregnant woman. During labor, if her hemoglobin is not up to the mark, Suchitra said, my God, she's going to be exhausted. She's not going to be able to cope. She needs all her energy, strength. She's running a marathon. She needs to be in great shape. And when she bleeds, even a so-called, not all women bleed. You cannot have a delivery or a C-section without losing about half a liter of blood. Her capacity of coping with blood loss is compromised. It's very poor. Post-delivery, when you need her to heal, she's got this massive raw area in the uterus where the placenta is separated out. She's going to have small tears in the vagina. She might have an episiotomy. She might have a cesarean scar to heal. She could be prone to infections. And she obviously will take longer to recover and heal if her hemoglobin is not up to the mark. So for me, hemoglobin levels and anemia are important challenges for us right in the beginning, first trimester of pregnancy, late pregnancy, labor, and post-delivery. I cannot pick one over the other.
And I think rightly we shouldn't also. At every point, a woman's health is important, a child's health is important. So why pick, right? Right. So Dr. Sucharita, I think Dr. Noza has touched a little bit, but I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about what is the impact of low iron level on birth outcome and infant HB level.
Right. As Noza has already told you about, what could happen in the labor. And if this woman ends up having a normal delivery or a C-section, whatever it is, as far as the fetus is concerned, I did give a little bit of, answer in the previous one, but I'll just repeat what I'm saying, that these babies, see, iron is very essential for the neural development. And if there is a reduced amount or an absence of that particular molecule, then the development of the brain, as far as myelination of the nerves is concerned, gets reduced, and therefore there could be developmental delays. And this means that when the child is born, the child could be very jittery, irritable, crying all the time. And at the same time, as a child is growing up, as that infant is growing up, there could be cognitive, there could be emotional, there could be adaptive problems. And for that child to have, adjust to the general age group would be very, very difficult. So when there are developmental delays, obviously the mothers are going to be very, very worried. And therefore, an astute clinician, at that time itself should be able to pick it up. And the obstetrician, sometimes you have unregistered patients coming into the medical colleges. In those situations, we as obstetricians have to remind the neonatologists that, this mother has been very anemic. So please, look after that newborn and make sure that, you check the iron levels. And usually they would do it. So this goes a long way. And, when we are talking about, the problems in infancy are basically then going on into adulthood. The very first stepping stone is where we are having developmental delays. So that is going to be a problem. Language, motor development, attending school at the right time, all these things are going to get affected. And then again, these children tend to have very brittle nails. The hair falls, even the eyelashes sometimes, don't come up at the right time. The skin can get very dry. And therefore, all these problems contribute. And a simple solution is educating women, giving them iron, giving them a good diet, calling them for regular follow-ups. I mean, simple tips. What Dr. Alpesh is trying to say, that, if we do these simple things, all of us join hands together, I think that will go a long way. It's a small investment and you get a huge return.
Right. So Dr. Alpesh, we've spoken a lot about Anemia-Free India. We've spoken about more than Bara. But what do you think is the first step towards an anemia-free India? Is it eating right? Is it exercising? Is it educating yourself? What is it?
Namrata, I can say this is the message from Foxy. This is a very, very important question. I will be very brief in answer. First step towards anemia-free India for government, for all the doctors, for organization is our decision to make our country anemia-free. So as I mentioned, our decision, our commitment, our priority, our actions is, we can say, the first step towards make our India free of anemia. For an individual, I think first step is again and again, I would say self-awareness for anemia, eating a proper diet, get CBC done, knowing your hemoglobin level, and contact your doctor if it is less than 12 and follow his or her advice. So once again, my request message to all the listeners, and of course to you, Namrata. First step is self-awareness for anemia, eating proper diet, getting CBC done, knowing your hemoglobin level, and contact your doctor if it is less than 12, less than 12, and follow his or her advice. Thank you.
Right. So as we come to the end of this discussion, doctors, I'd like to ask each one of you, what is the one key piece of advice you'd like to give our audience, especially women, through this platform? So we can start with Dr. Suchitra. If you'd like to give us one piece of advice or give the audience one piece of advice, what would you like to say?
First of all, for all I have worked a lot with young people. So my advice will first go to the young people. Eat well, carry your lunchbox from home, and ensure that even if you eat fast food, please eat nutritious food. And if there is a problem, and if your mom says, let's go to the doc and let's take medicines, please take those medicines. And for the younger people who are growing up and planning to get married, please attend the preconceptional counseling clinics, because they can take care. They can say all is well and just go ahead and we can say premarital or preconception. You can go ahead and get pregnant, and once you get pregnant, please register as soon as possible with your doctor, because he will help you go through those 9 months to have the wonderful baby that you have been dreaming of.
Thank you, Dr. Suchitra. Dr. Noser, I'd like to hear from you. What is the one piece of advice you'd like to give?
One piece of advice to the many stakeholders. So I'm going to give many pieces of advice to the woman. Please take care of yourself. Okay. You should not be feeling awkward or guilty or selfish looking after yourself, because when you look after yourself, you make such a difference, not just to your pregnancy, but to everyone around you, to the family and to the husband. Please look after her. She's doing something very special. I've always said women put their lives on their line to look after the future of humanity. We owe it to them to take great care. To the caregivers and doctors, special care, attentive care, and use everything at your disposal to keep a watch on them and to make them, to make sure that they are not anemic and protect them. To the government, women are 50% of humanity. They are the more important 50% of humanity. Without them, humanity would not exist. You owe it to them. Please invest more in public health. Please invest more in women's health. Please increase your health budgets, because that will make a difference. And to civil society, please make the government accountable. Please make sure that they invest more. If you can go onto the streets for other agitation on Jallikattu, for God's sake, go onto the streets to ask for health, particularly women's health, because that's what our civilization is going to be measured by.
Right. Very rightly said. I think it's important to ask for better health and also receive it then back in return. Dr. Alpesh, what about you? If there's one piece of advice, what would you like to say?
I would like to say to all the girls, all the women, all family members, that please take care of girls and women, and always try to prevent all preventable diseases. Anemia in most of the cases is preventable disease. Never neglect minor symptoms. You may have not interest in activities, you may have fatigueness, you may have body ache, so many minor problems you may have. It may be because of anemia. So never neglect any problem, and try to get good food, good exercise, and always try to know your hemoglobin level, get your CBC done, contact your doctor, and of course try to remain free of anemia. It's a preventable disease, and do not get into anemia.
Thank you, Doctor. And thank you to all of you. It's been an intensely knowledgeable session. And I speak for everybody when I say that I'm immensely grateful to all of you once again for doing all that you are to raise awareness on More Than Bara and pledging to make an anemia-free India. Thank you very much again for all your time and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Namrata. Thanks for doing this interview. And I really hope it benefits the viewers and all your Instagram followers.
I'm sure it will. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you, doctors.
Thank you.